Hi everyone, and welcome to the Scrap and Create YouTube channel. It's Christine here, and I'm finally back with part 3 of my Ladies Diary tutorial. I first did a walkthrough for you of this album that I made, and this was the original album that I made. So in the description box of this video below, you will be linked to the walkthrough of this album as well as parts 1 and 2 of the tutorial. So in the walkthrough, I showed you how I made this beautiful album using the gorgeous papers from the A Lady's Diary Deluxe Collector's Edition. In part 1 of the Lady's Diary tutorial, I showed you how to make the book, which is 7.5 by 9.5, and the pocket pages, which are 7 by 9. And then in part 2 of the Ladies Diary tutorial, I showed you how to custom make all of the different page designs with all of the pockets, flaps, and pullouts and things of that nature. Okay, so this is going to be part 3 of this tutorial, and this is where I'm going to show you how I use this beautiful paper to decorate the inside of this album. Now, this is a deluxe collector's edition, so you don't have the accompanying 8x8 papers or patterns and solids like we get when a new collection comes out from Graphic 45. So you do want to be a bit strategic when cutting out your papers because you just don't have as many of them. So let's go ahead and get started. By the way, all of the supplies that you need to create this album you can find over at scrapandcreate.com. That's scrap, the letter N, and then the word create altogether.com. And you can find this Deluxe Collector's Edition. You can find all the score tape that you would need. And then for me, my favorite adhesive of choice for adhering all of my design paper is Art Glitter Glue. And you can find this at scrapandcreate.com as well. This is the best glue on the market in my personal opinion. I would definitely recommend getting the add-on silver tip top here. It has a pin that comes out so it keeps the nozzle from clogging, and also this pin will not rust. It's rust proof, whatever they call that. So anyway, this is amazing glue. I use this size bottle for working, and then I have a very large bottle that you can also purchase at Scrap and Create that I just use to refill this one. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that you want to do before cutting any paper is go through all of the papers in the collection, figure out what you want on your cover, what you want on your spine, and what you want on the back. And you want to set those papers aside. You also want to pull out the 2 cut apart pages. There are 2 pages in this collection. Now you get 2 of each design. All right, so you just need to pull 1 out. There are 2 different papers that have cut aparts on them. I like to use those cut aparts as I coordinate my designs. So the cut aparts are very important for me. I like to use them as design elements in my books. So I also pulled those 2 aside, those 2 pages aside. So I pulled out first a total of 6 pages aside. My cover, my spine, my back, and then the 2 cut aparts, actually 5 pages aside. So for my cover, as you can see from the original album, I simply used elements from the signature sheet of the collection. So let me go ahead now. I never decorate my cover first. I always do my cover, spine, and back cover last, simply because sometimes you get glue or smudges or ink or whatever on your workstation, and I don't want that to get on my beautiful designed album. So I leave this undecorated until the very end. And of course, it's very subjective. It's whatever you want to do, however you want to do this album. You do not have to do your cover the same way that I did. If, however, you do want to do your cover the same way I did, I will go ahead and give you the measurements now, even though I'm not going to glue it on. So I grabbed this signature sheet, like I mentioned, and I cut this little card out, okay? Then I cut the main lady out, and I cut her, around her, to 5 1/4 by 8 3/8, and this is the main lady. And then I just backed that with some cream cardstock. I then cut out, this is the back of the second page of the signature sheet. And I just simply cut this to 6 3/8 by 8 3/4. Then this would get glued down first. Then I would glue my lady onto the back, or onto the front rather, of this cream cardstock, and she goes right here. Then this small cut apart was also on the signature sheet. The design paper I cut down to 2 3/8 by 3 1/4, and I backed it on a small piece of cream cardstock. And then this will go right here. Okay. I then would use one of the cut aparts from the, actually I used a sticker. This is the sticker sheet that comes with the collection, with the Deluxe Collector's Edition, and this sticker here, you can use it without the border or with the border. I just took the inside out, backed it on cardstock, and that goes in the upper left corner with some flowers in the bottom left corner. So that's how I did my cover. This is the little piece that I used for my spine. Okay, it's this design here, and I cut this to, it doesn't look like I wrote that down, so let me grab my ruler really quick and measure that for you. The spine is 2 1/2. It's going to be 7 or 8 3/4. And that's going to go right here on the spine. Okay, so it'll look like that. And then finally on the back, I chose this paper because I just thought it was absolutely beautiful. I like to keep the backs of my books pretty simple because I like them to lay flat on the table when I'm thumbing through them. So I just used this design paper for the back of my book. It is 6 3/4 by 8 3/4. Okay, so those are the elements that are going to make up your front, back, and spine pieces of your album, if you want to do yours exactly like mine. Okay, so those are the measurements for that. Again, I'm not going to do that because I would always do this last. So we're just going to set all this aside. I have it labeled, and we're just going to set this aside, and then we're going to move on to the inside of the book. And we're just going to start with the inside front cover and work our way all the way through the book. All right, so beginning with the inside front cover, we need the base here to go behind our pocket. So what I did, and I've already, by the way, pre-cut and inked everything. I used this Powder Puff Java chalking ink from Scrap and Create. It's amazing. You just take the lid off, you hold it in your hand, and you just run it around your paper like this. It is so easy to do, and it gives a very subtle in person. Probably doesn't even show up on camera. It's very subtle, but it is noticeable in person, and it's lovely. It's a very lovely ink, and it's very, very easy to use. So these are our pieces for our inside front cover, which includes, by the way, this little flap. I include that in the inside front cover measurements, okay? So the first thing is the base, the base that goes behind the pocket. That is going to measure 6 5/8 by 8. So I'm going to go ahead now and take the little pin out of my art glitter glue, and like I said, this is what I'm going to use for adhering everything inside my book. I just love this glue. It sticks. It really, really sticks. We, at one point in time, after I had done several albums, we moved 3 different times in about a year's time frame. And so my books, of course, went with us, and they have not at all fallen apart. And I use this art glitter glue on all of them. So that, I think, is a pretty good endorsement for that art glitter glue. Okay, so I just used this paper from the collection for the backing of my inside front cover. The next thing that I want to do is I want to do the pocket. The pocket is going to be 6 1/4, and this is your design paper measurement that I'm calling out here, okay? 6 1/4 by 2, and it's just going to sit right down here. So let's go ahead and just get some glue here on the back of this little strip, and then we will stick that down. All right. Now remember, when we constructed the book, we left a little bit of the backing of the score tape on the back of the pockets. And that was so we could get our design paper nicely fit behind the pocket so that it looked in like a nice and clean finish transition between the paper back here and the pocket. So we want to remove the backing of that score tape. We also want to grab our art glitter glue, and this is where that really thin silver tip that I mentioned comes in handy. We are just going to put a tiny little bit of glue right at the top, at the corner rather, of this intricate punch that we did with our punch. Now if you just left, and this goes for the entirety of the book, all of my pockets I used a deep border punch for them. If you did not, which is perfectly fine, if you did not, then your measurement here is going to be a little bit different than mine. So you'll just want to measure, okay, the top to the top of your pocket, and then cut this paper 1/4 of an inch smaller if you're using the same border that I am. But the reason why I like to close off the doily lace part that we've punched by putting a little bit of glue on both of the ends is because if you don't, if you just rely on what's taped from here down, these little ends are going to get bent as you're, you know, pulling photo mats in and out and just using the book. And we don't want that. So you just dab a little tiny bit of glue right on the very edges of that punched strip there. And then you want to hold it down for just a second so that glue can really absorb into the paper behind it. And then you're all done. So that is our first page, our inside front cover, okay? Now for this flap. For the flap, and again, because we're using a DCE, I'm going to show you some tricks to not use as much paper. If we had, you know, a full collection with patterns and solids, I'd probably just cover this with design paper, and then I could put my photos down later. But I don't have quite enough paper to cover everything. So I'm just kind of pre-planning where I'm going to put some photos. And I decided I want a 4x6 photograph down here. So I made this little strip to go up here, and then a 4x6 photograph is going to go right here, no problem at all. So this little strip here, I used the little teapot design paper from the collection, and this little strip here measures 6 1/4 by 2. So this is the same size as our pocket. So I'm just going to grab my glue, put some glue on the back here. So when I do the glue, I go all around the corners and then just scribble some on in the middle of the paper as well. So I'm going to leave a little 1/8 of an inch border around here, and you'll be able to leave a little 1/8 of an inch border before your photograph here. By the way, I have, so you can see kind of visually what I'm talking about, I have a 4x6 photograph right here, and it can go right below that perfectly. Okay? All right, so now we would flip this over to the back, and we're just going to do the same thing on the back, but I'm just going to put the design paper down here instead of up top, just to alter it just a little bit. So remember, this is the same size strip. You just need 2 of these, and this one is 6 1/4 by 2 again. And so this one I'm just going to put along the bottom of this flap here. So I'm just going to give it a nice 1/4 of an inch, I'm sorry, 1/8 of an inch border around, top, bottom, and sides. Like so, press it down, and then like I said, your photo goes right here. Okay? Make sense? Okay, so you can leave that blank. When I made the original book, I used black cardstock, so I put little cream mats just to make it look kind of nice and stuff. But there's no reason to put cream mats on top of cream, so you can just really just leave that blank. Or if you wanted to, you could put white or whatever on top of it for where the photo goes. All right, so that is our inside front cover. Let's move on now to page number 1. For page number 1, we have a little packet of supplies here, so let's get started with that. Flap 1 here is a very long and narrow pocket. All of these flaps, if you recall from the original tutorial, were really customized to this beautiful paper. The cutouts, a lot of the cutouts from the cut apart pages are not standard sizes, so I just kind of went with it, you know, and cut them because I wanted these beautiful images to be part of my design. So this strip ends up being 3 by 6 3/4. Okay, so we're just going to glue that on top of our first flap here, which is our left flap. And it's going to have a nice 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. And don't, again, I have already pre-cut and pre-inked everything, so I don't have to do that step on camera and save some time. Okay, let's press that down, get that glue to really stick. Sometimes if I don't get the glue all the way out to the corner, I just need to come back in with it a little bit and really stick it down. Okay, now let's lift this flap up. Depending on what you want to do with the book, you can put a cream on the back of this to cover that magnet, or just place your photo down right there, or some type of matting, or 2 photos even, or whatever you want. I'm just going to leave that there for now and not worry about that magnet for now. But when it came time to actually adding photos to my book and that sort of thing, I would decide what I would want to do at that point in time. The next little flap is, again, another custom size. This is a lady's diary. This is from one of the cut aparts pages, and it measures 4 by 2 3/8. So we'll just glue this to the front of our right flap, like so. Okay, again, just leaving that border there around it. And the same thing here. So again, I made the original book in black, so to make it look pretty for the camera, I put cream on the back, cream cardstock on the back of all my flaps. My idea is in the back of the flaps will go either photos or some more cream cardstock for journaling. So if I decide I want to put a little photo here, I'm just going to tear the score tape off the back of the magnet and tape my photo down. If I want to do some journaling, I'm just going to cut a little piece of cream cardstock that is the same size as the flap, and then tear the score tape off and glue that down on top of this flap and then do my journaling. Same with all of the flaps in the book, including this tall one we just did, okay? So that is my plan for that. Now we need to do the base of our page that goes behind the pocket. So let's go ahead, on these magnets we can go ahead and tear off the score tape backing. Okay, so we can go ahead and lay this down. And what we're gonna do is I chose this paper here for this for the placement on page 1 here. So I'm just going to add my glitter glue here, and then remember we left the pockets opened, so we can slide this right down. My head gets in, I apologize. I just want to make sure I have a nice 1/4 inch border all the way around, and then we'll give this a nice burnish so this gets nice and glued down to our book. The last thing we need to do for page 1 is first let's take off the score tape on the sides that we left on the short ends of the pocket. Grab that art glitter glue and add just a little bit of glue to the edge, just like I showed you with the pocket for the inside front cover. We're going to have to do that for every single pocket that we do. So I'll probably sound rather repetitive as we are going on here. If you did not use a border punch, you can skip that part. Okay, obviously you would not need to add the glue to the top edges of the pockets if you did not use your border punch. All right, so I'm just holding my fingers here for just a moment so that glue gets nice and absorbed in. Okay, and now we want to go ahead and place our design paper for the top of our pocket down, and this measures 6 1/4 by 2 1/2. So we can go ahead and glue this down like so. Okay. Again, just giving myself a little border there. Okay, so this is page 1, and this flap closes like this, and this flap closes like that. And so that is what page 1 looks like. All right, let's move on to page number 2. All right, so for page number 2, we have basically a side envelope is what this one kind of boils down to. So let's start with the right flap, which would be the top. If you think of this as a side envelope, it would be the top of the envelope. And remember, we used a corner rounder on this, and I did the same thing on my design paper. All right, so this piece is going to go right here. I actually kind of jacked up that corner, didn't I? Let me see if I can fix it and round it better. Yep, I can. See, paper crafts are so forgiving. You can almost always fix any mistake. Okay, so this right flap measures 3 1/4 by 8 1/4. And then of course, if you want to round the corners, you can go ahead and do that with whatever corner rounder you have. Mine's old. I've had mine for like over a decade. Mine's from Creative Memories, and it's like one of the first corner rounders I think that ever came out, but there's tons in the stores now. So whatever you have, if you want to do that, of course, that's optional. All right, so we've gone ahead and glued this down. The next step is we're going to open the right flap. And actually, that's a little crooked. So before that glue dries, if you make a mistake, before that glue dries all the way, you have a little wiggle room to pick it up and kind of maneuver it a little bit better if you maybe didn't get it exactly where you wanted it. So, of course, if you really mess up, you can always use Undo, which is a product that kind of helps get something off of where you don't want it to be. But I believe if you use glue and you use the Undo, you cannot reuse the strip you've taken off, so you'd have to cut a new strip. But generally speaking, I don't even have to reach for that for the Undo. I'm just able to kind of peel it off and fix it really quick with my fingers. Okay, next we need to do the inside of this right flap, or the top of the side pocket, if you want to think of it that way. So this strip is the same exact measurement, and it's 3 1/4 by 8 1/4, okay? And it's going to go right here. So let's go ahead and remove the backings of these magnets here. Okay, and then we can just go ahead and glue this right down on top. Okay. And excuse my head, if my head gets in, I'm just trying to make sure I have a nice even border. I stuck that first one down a little crooked, so okay, so there's that. And now we have this left flap, right? So on this left flap, I'm going to place, and this is a continuation of this paper, so I cut these together at the same time so they would just kind of meld into each other. This side here measures 5 1/4 by 8 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and place my glue on the back of this piece of design paper here. And then we'll go ahead and, whoops, we want to tear the backings off, of course, of this score tape. It's covering our magnets. Okay, now we can go ahead and stick this beautiful paper down. Again, forgive my head if it's in the camera. Okay, there we go. Beautiful. Okay, so now we can go ahead and open up the inside. The inside of our left flap here, we have, this is how I saved some paper, okay? I did just a little bit of some strip work here. So what I'm going to, my idea was, is I'm gonna have 2 4x4 photos on this flap. And I just have this little strip going down like that. Okay? So this little strip here is actually a little short, isn't it? I think it should be, let me see if that's right. I don't want to give you the wrong size. It should be 8 1/4. And what is it? 7 3/4. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to cut a piece that's 8 3/4 by 1 1/4 for that little strip. And I'm just trying to find another piece here that will work from my scraps. It's going to probably have to be a different color, but that's okay. All right, and so let's see, we said 8 3/4 by 1 1/4. I'm just cutting this off camera really quickly here. Okay, that's, there we go. Nope. Okay, let's see. Let's just take a look at this again here. What am I doing wrong? Let's see. We want this to be 8 1/4 by 1 1/4. Okay, 8 1/4 by 1 1/4 is what you want. So I'm just going to cut another piece here really quick. I don't have matching in this size, so I'm just going to have to use another piece really quickly here. But we definitely want to make sure we have our measurements right. So let's go ahead and ink this really quickly. Again, this is so cool. I love this chalky ink here. Okay, now let's see if this works a little bit better. Yep, that's exactly what we want. Okay, so let me change that on the cut list. That is going to be 8 1/4, that strip, by 1 1/4. Okay. There we go. Okay. All right, so now that's all fixed. Sorry about that. Let's scooch this over here just a little bit and let's go ahead and get this down. And then again, you will be able to fit 2 4x4 photos on this left flap. So in other words, instead of putting design paper like we might do if we had a full collection on the entirety of the back of this flap, we're just putting a little strip and then we're going to have 2 photos here. And then of course you can put a sticker or a chipboard element or something like that in between the photos, leave it open just to add some fun to the spread or to the layout. Next, we need to do the base behind the pocket, which I chose this paper for, and that is going to measure 6 1/4 by 7 1/2. Remember, you don't have to go all the way to the bottom of your pocket. Of your page rather, because you have the pocket there. So that's why I'm not cutting these the full length of our pages. Let's pull the pocket out. Remember, we left those sides open during the construction of the book. Go ahead and lay that down. Press that down rather. Didn't get enough glue over on the side, so let's fix that. All right, and now we want to go ahead and add this little strip here for the front of our pocket. And this strip measures 6 1/4 by 2. Okay, and that's just gonna go right there. And that looks pretty. I kind of wish for design purposes I hadn't miscut this, because I do like having that little bit of blue over here. It kind of brings out the blue of this lady's dress. But you know, that's what happens when you cut wrong and you don't have a whole lot of paper. So definitely try to pre-plan when you're using a DCE. Alrighty, okay, let's go ahead and fix our pockets now. We need to tear off the sides. Again, I'm a broken record about this. Add a little bit of glue to the tippy top where we punched. Hold it down. Do the same thing on the left side. Tear off that tape backing there. There we go. And then go ahead and, of course, add your little bit of glue. And there you have it. So that is page 2. And again, as I said during the walkthrough, my idea was to leave these flaps here and this alone, just to enjoy the beautiful paper. You know, and then put photos here and in the pockets and such. But if you wanted to cover this up, you absolutely could, and you'd have even more room for photographs. Okay, moving on now to page number 3. Page number 3 is probably our busiest page, so let's get to it. First, we have this little flap here. So we have this whole right flap segment, and on top of that right flap, we have this tiny little flap here that's at the top. We're going to tear that down first. This is just one of the cut-aparts from the cut-apart page in the collection. So I'm going to go ahead and just add my glue and put this on the front here, on top of this flap. And this little flap, by the way, the design paper measures 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. When you lift it up, like I was saying with page 1, all right, I'm not going to remove this now. I'm going to wait to decide if I'm going to have journaling or a photo on the back, and I'll remove it when the backing of the magnet when the time comes to glue either a photo or another piece of cardstock for journaling on the back. So I'm just going to leave that up so we can now work on this teeny tiny little flap. And again, this book is very customized to the little cutouts that are in this paper collection. So this little card cutout here measures 3 by 1 1/2, and I just made a little flap for that because I thought it was really cute. So this is going to go right here. And I think that that is adorable. Okay, so there's our little card. Then this flap opens up, and now we have to do the base here of this flap where the pocket is. And for that, I chose this beautiful paper here, so it's going to go right down here on the base here of this front right flap. So let's add a bunch of glue to the back of this. By the way, this glue that I'm raving about is called Art Glitter Glue. There's no glitter in the glue. I know that confuses some people. That's just the name of the company. There's no glitter in this glue. So I removed the backing of the score tape on those magnets, and now we're just going to center this here, excuse my head if it's in the frame, on top of this flap here. Okay, now we need our little pocket, and I chose this little strip here. And this little strip measures 5 by 1 3/4, so I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. Make sure I'm on frame. I am. Okay, so let's go ahead and stick that down there, like so. So now this is what the top of that little flap is going to look like. Now if we open the flap here, the inside of this, oops, we forgot to fix our pockets. Let me do that really quick. Go ahead and take the score tape backing off the side, add a little bit of glue to the tippy top of the pocket if you punched it. Okay, if you use some type of punch or die, same thing on the other side. There we go. Okay. All right. So there's now the top of that right flap. If we open the flap, we have these two small flaps now. So we have, I just chose two random little cut aparts to go on these little flaps, okay? These both measure 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. So I can go ahead and remove the backing of this score tape for the magnets on both of these flaps. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and glue these beautiful little ladies down. Okay, so I'm gonna put this one on the bottom flap here. Just giving myself a nice border. Same with the top. And again, these are not normal flaps. Most of these flap sizes are not normal flap sizes that I would do with a normal book, because they are not necessarily, you know, quote unquote normal picture sizes. We're used to, you know, 4x6s, 4x4s, 3x5s, and 3x4s, right? And these are a little different, but that's okay, because we can crop our photos down as we need to, just to accommodate these beautiful cut aparts in this beautiful paper. Okay. So then we can go ahead and open these. Again, like I've been saying, you could put, you know, wait to remove the backings of the score tape for these magnets till you're ready to go with your photos, or if you want cardstock for journaling, that's fine too. Now here, we're going to be doing 2 4x4 photos again. Again, this is just a little tip on how to save paper. So I have cut 2 little strips. These little strips are 3/4 by 4 inches, and they're gonna go like so. Just leave yourself a nice little border. We're gonna leave these alone too. The backings of the score tape for these magnets, we're gonna leave them alone as well. All right, because we're gonna wait till we put down photos. And I'm just gonna go ahead and stick this down. Again, give yourself a nice little 1/8 of an inch border. And I'm gonna do the same thing with this one up here. And this is just a little trick. If you pre-plan where you want your photos, this will really help you when you're using up these DCEs, because you'll find that you end up having enough paper to fully create your book, and it's gonna look beautiful. Okay, there we go. So now these little flaps close, and you'd have photos there, or whatever you'd like. And then this flap opens again, okay? And on this one, I have a little 3x3 photo and then a 4x6 photo. So I just have a little strip here on the side. I'm sorry, 3x5 photo here and 3x3 up top. So I just have a little strip here on the side that I cut to 1 3/4 by 8 1/4. Again, just simply, you know, again, normally in my books, I would just cover the whole thing with design paper and then add my photo mats later. But, you know, I don't have the luxury for that, because I created so many, you know, flaps and stuff for this particular book. So because I don't have enough for that, I decided to just do some strips that still make it look nice, and then you put your little photos here. Okay, now we have this inside flap here. We're gonna do strip work again, because we're gonna have a big 4x6 photograph here. Okay, so I cut this little strip, which is going to measure 4 1/4 by 1 3/4. And then I have a longer strip here, which is going to measure 5/8 by 8 1/4. So by putting these two strips here, we leave ourselves plenty of room. A 4x6 photo will go right here, okay, with a nice border around it. All right, so that is why I designed it that way. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this down here on the bottom. And then same thing with this larger strip here on the side. Okay. And again, you can definitely, when it comes to decorating, you know, add little stickers that you leave open and chipboard and things like that to these pages as well to really jazz them up. All right, so that is what these pages are going to look like. Okay, so now we can close this, and let's work on the middle section here. On the middle section here, we have the base. So let's open up our flaps, and we have this base that goes down in here, right? And this is gonna measure 6 1/4 by 7. Okay, so we can go ahead and remove the backing of the score tape on this base page here. And then we can go ahead and put our glue on the back. All right, pull the pocket out a little bit and just slide this right on down. And it's going to fit beautifully. I had my tape a little too high though. Let me pull some of that tape off. I'm going to just grab my scissors and just chop it. There we go. Okay, there we go. That's better. Again, please excuse my head if I'm in the frame. Just trying to get this placed nicely. Okay, there we go. Because I kind of had to lift it up, so my glue dried early, so I just need to kind of add a little bit more. Again, that's where that nice silver glue tip that you can get for the art glitter glue comes in handy. It just fits in the smallest of places. It's really awesome. Okay, now we have to, of course, do our pocket cover, which is going to be this right here, and this measures 6 1/4 by 2. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the backing off of this magnet, of the score tape that's over the magnet, and then we can glue this little strip down here. Okay, and that's our base page. All right. So now what we want to do is go ahead and close this first flap, your right flap. And this is the little cut apart that I chose for the right flap. And this measures 3 by 3. And it's just going to go right there on top of that flap. So I'm going to tear the backing off here. And again, I don't know why I put my magnet so low. I really shouldn't have put the magnet so low because it's going to be kind of hard to get a nice 1/4 inch border. So let me see if I can make that a little bit better. Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to now unwind all the tape that's on top of this magnet. Get it all off here. Yeah, normally I wouldn't, I don't know why I put my magnet so low, because you want, you know, that nice 1/4 inch border, I'm sorry, 1/8 inch border around, and that wasn't possible with where I put the magnet. Now I may just have to put it there and suck it up, but I just thought I'd take it off and try one more time, just to see if there's any way to fix that. If not, well, it's okay. It's all gonna be okay. This is handmade, right? Okay, almost got the tape off. Okay, now let's see. There we go. There's where it went. So we need to grab just a little tiny, let's see, a little tiny piece of score tape. Where did I put my score tape? I got everything ready to film, and then I didn't think I'd be needing score tape, so I don't have that out handy. Here it is. Okay. So let's go ahead and I'm going to put it down and see if I can get it to stick right about there. Let's see if I can do that. Yep, it did. Okay. So I'm just going to put a little bit on top again. It's a tiny little difference, probably not worth doing in the future, but I probably should have planned that magnet placement a little tiny bit better, but it is what it is, and it's all going to turn out okay. It's going to be beautiful. All right, let's go ahead and cover that up. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to center it, and then we're just going to put, you know, a sticker or something over where that magnet is, and it's not even going to be a big deal. So you can take, you know, a little, oh, you know what might be pretty? We could do one of these little photo corners and stick that there, and that completely covers up that magnet, the little tiny bit that was peeking out, and then we'll just put another photo corner in the top. So see, there's always a way. Because I tell you, you know, obviously, if I'm going to be doing these on YouTube, I try to plan everything out perfectly, but I'm still going to make mistakes. And it's nice to know that there's a lot of ways that you can fix them if you make them yourself. Now we have our last flap here, which is 3 1/4. I'm sorry. Yeah, 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. So let's go ahead and put our glue on the back of this. And then we will just go ahead and glue that down. Pardon my head if it's in the frame. Okay, all right, so there's that, and now we just need to fix this base page pocket like we've been doing. Stick that end down. Same thing over here on the left side. that score tape backing off. And then, didn't quite glue that perfectly, there we go. And then we'll just want to glue the tippy top of this far left side of our pocket. All right. Press that down for a minute just so it sticks. Okay, so this is what we have for page number 3. It opens, here's our little flips and flaps on this right flap. Then the right flap opens. These two little guys open, right? This is a spread for 4x4 photos. Another spread for photos over here. And here, that closes. And then here's your base page where you have a beautiful pocket and then more room for photos underneath these flaps. All right, so that is page number 3. Let's move on to page number 4. Page number 4, again, we have a customized flap that just simply goes with one of the cut aparts in the collection, not a standard size that I'd use, but it's quite, I wanted this lady to be part of my design because she's beautiful. So this flap design paper measures 3 1/4 by 7, and it's just going to go on this flap we made here. That's our left flap. So let's add our glue, and then we'll center this right here in the middle of this flap. Okay, now we can lift this flap up and we have a side flap here. On this side flap here, I'm going to do a little bit more paper piecing again. So I am going to, let me set it over there. Okay, I have a little strip here that measures, that's not the strip that I want, is it? Yes, it is. Wait. Yeah, it is. That's right. I'm sorry. This strip measures 2 1/2 by 5. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and put that. And put this up towards the top. Okay, so have your 1/8 inch border from the top and the right side, and then you're going to have more room here on the bottom. On the bottom here is where we're going to place this strip, which measures 5 3/4 by 3/4 of an inch. And we're just going to go ahead and glue that to the bottom. I am going to leave that tape backing until I'm ready for my photo. So I'm not too worried about that right now. So nice photo, 3 by 5 for, you know, whatever size you want can go right there. Let's open this little pocket now, or this little flap rather now, and we have this little base that goes right here behind this little pocket, right? This base measures 5 1/2 by 5 1/4. Let's go ahead and put our glue on. We'll take the backing off of our score tape here that hides that magnet, pull our pocket out, and get this nice and centered on the back of this right flap. Okay. Then we have a little strip for the pocket, which measures 5 1/2 by 3/4. This is the design paper I chose. Okay, so let's go ahead and got glue all over my fingers here. Yikes. Okay, let's go ahead and glue that and stick that to the front of the pocket. And then we need to remove, again, just like we've been doing, we had put little 1/4 inch score tape on the back of this pocket just so we'd have more room. So we'll remove the back of that and then glue, if you did the punching of the top of the pocket, you know, you want to glue those little sides down like we've been talking about. Same thing on the left side. Okay, add a little bit of that glue. There we go. And then we're just going to hold both sides down for a minute so they get nice and stuck down. Okay. All right, so that is our right flap right there, like so. Okay, and then we have this cute little pocket. Now we have a second right flap, if you will, this little guy right here. And so we're going to put this right here, which measures 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. Okay, So let's go ahead and glue this. And center that nicely on top of this flap, like so. Okay. Now let's open that, and we have the base page that we need to deal with. So let's go ahead and put our paper back here. This is going to measure 6 1/4 by 7. It's going to go behind that pocket there. So let's go ahead and pull off the backings to the score tape that's holding these magnets in place here. And then we will go ahead and glue this down. It out a little bit, get it nice and down into the pocket, and then give yourself a nice border around, and then press it down. Super easy. Super, super easy. Just go ahead and burnish that all down. And then finally we have our little pocket piece here, which measures 6 1/4 by 2. So we can quickly go ahead and glue that down. And then of course we need to fix our pocket by taking that tape off the back and then gluing the little tippy top of the punched area. Again, just like we've been doing. Okay, push that down. Oops, did not get enough glue on that design paper, so let's fix that. Same on the other side now. Peel off that tape backing. Go ahead and glue just the tippy top of the punched pocket, or the edge rather, I should say, of the punched pocket. Let's hold those down for a minute. Just get those to really stick. All right. So this is how this book goes. Or this page goes. So we have this flap here, right? And then we have this cute little flap here for photos in a little pocket, and then these flaps with our pocket page in as the center of the base page. Okay, let's move on to page 5. We are moving right along here, guys. Page 5 is pretty simple. We have 2 flaps and a pocket for page 5. So the first flap is this one here. This just comes again from one of the cut aparts in the paper, and it measures 5 by 3 1/2. So let's just glue this to our top flap. Go ahead and pull this down a little bit. There we go. Go ahead and stick that down. Open that flap. This one measures the same thing, 5 by 3 1/4. It's another cut apart from the paper collection that I just cut right out of the paper. Beautiful. Okay, now we have to do our base page. Let's go ahead and take that score tape off. I chose this paper here with beautiful letters, and it measures 6 1/4 by 7. So let's glue this. Stick that behind our pocket. Give ourselves a nice border and then burnish it down. Alrighty, so that's done. These 2 close. Now we just have to do our pocket. This little strip measures 6 1/4 by 1 3/4 for the front of our pocket. So let's go ahead and glue that down like so. And then we just need to fix the pocket, just like we've been doing. That I've been repeating myself because I put a lot of pockets in this book. So I just glue the edge of that punched pocket. Same thing on the left side now. Remove the score tape. I can get it off. There we go. And then we grab our glitter glue and we just add a little bit to the side there. Okay. And we just keep pushing that down for a minute. Let it get nice and stuck. Okay. All right. Moving on to page number 6. We have a left flap here. This left flap measures 5 1/4 by 8 1/4. So I chose this paper here. So let's go ahead and get that taped down, or glued down rather. So I'm just going to center it on top of this left flap and stick it down. Give it a nice burnish. Okay. Now what I did on mine was I cut this lady out. And I decided, you know, I was just going to leave this page alone in my original book. So I cut all around this lady from one of the cut-aparts and glued her down there. You can do that. Here's what it looks like just to show you in the original book. My idea, again, just leave that page alone, you know, don't put photos there. Or you can obviously put lots of photos there. There's lots of room. So that's a pretty generous flap. So there's lots of room for photos on that. Okay. So we open this left flap, and now we have this little tiny flap within the left flap. That measures 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. And it's gonna go right there, okay? So let's go ahead and glue that. Okay, and we'll stick that down right in the middle there of that left flap. Okay. Next, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and do some strip work again. Laying some paper strips down on this left flap here so that we can utilize that paper a little bit better. Photos will go here, so what we're going to do is we're going to lay a strip down right here, and that's going to measure 1 inch by 6 1/4. So let's go ahead and do that, and leave your quarter, put it up towards the top. So leave your 1/8 inch border up towards the top. You want it up here like so. So that 1/4 inch border's on the top and sides. Okay, there we go. And then we have a piece that is 5 1/4 by 2 that's going to come down here. Okay, so we can take this one magnet backing off, and we can go ahead and glue this down like so. And now a large 4 by 6 photo will fit for us right in that open space. Now if you wanted a 5 by 7 on here, you would just cut your paper a little differently. Does that make sense? These are just ideas for you and a way to conserve paper instead of just putting your photos on top of paper. When you have a DCE, you know, obviously you don't have as much paper to work with. So okay, next we have on the base page this little flap here, and that measures 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. So let's go ahead and glue that down. Again, this is just from one of the cut aparts page. Not all of these cut aparts are the same size. That's why these flaps are very custom. This one, for example, is a tiny little bit smaller. This is 2 3/4 by 3 1/2 instead of 3 3/4. Because I really like that 1/8 inch border, so I didn't want to make them all the same size, because then the little cut apart might look weird on the front of the flap, if that makes sense. So everything's very customized to the sizes of the paper. Open up these flaps. We now have the back to do of the base page. That measures 6 1/4 by 7, as all of them have. Let's go ahead and add our glue to the back. Go ahead and tear off our backings to our score tape. Forgive my glue all over my hands, by the way. I didn't have my art glitter glue bottle screwed on properly. So the glue leaked and I had to wipe it off, and I'm trying to get this video done for you guys, so I haven't taken a moment to go get the glue off my fingers. So I'm sorry about that. Okay, so that's down, and now we just need to do this little pocket strip, which measures 6 1/4 by 1 1/2. Let's go ahead and get that down. Remove the backing of the score tape here, and then this goes down like so. Now let's just fix our pockets like we've been doing. You guys will be a pro at pockets by the end of this one, huh? I just really like pockets in my books. It's a great place to just kind of dump things, memorabilia, photos, journaling cards. You know, it's just kind of a great fail-safe. And then when I do the flaps and add all the other areas for photos as well, I just find that it works for me. Of course, if you wanted to leave off any of these pockets on these base pages, you certainly could do that. I just really love me some pockets, obviously. All right, so let's hold our fingers here for just a minute and get that pocket, the tippy top of those edges of the pockets glued down. All right, there we go. and then these little flaps go down, and then that flap goes like that. Okay. On to page 7. Almost done, guys. 2 more pages and the inside back cover to go. Okay. So on page 7, we have this little right flap area with a small flap right on top. So that is going to be this little one, again from the cut aparts that measures 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue that and stick it right on this little flap here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and open this up. We now have the base of this flap, which measures 3 3/4 by 7. Okay, so it's just going to go right down in that pocket on that flap there. Let's go ahead and remove the score tape on this magnet, or the backing on the magnet. Stick this down into the pocket. There we go. That nice and burnished down. We have a little strip for the pocket, which is 3 3/4 by 2. Okay, it's going to go right on the top of that pocket there. Isn't this paper just beautiful? I just love this paper. I'm so glad they brought it back. All right, now on the back of this flap, we have another piece that's 3 1/4 by 2. Again, I just happen to have the paper for this because I planned ahead in the beginning stages, so I have a full sheet to cover this, but you could still do your paper strips if you want to, and just leave room for your photos. I just decided to make it easier on myself since I had the paper left over to do it this way for this on camera, but you could certainly do your little strips if you wanted to. Now this opens again. Make sure I'm on front camera. This is a pretty busy page. And we have another strip that's the same exact size. So it's 3 3/4 by 3 1/4 by 8 1/4. And it's going to go on the back. Okay, let's go ahead and peel off this score tape backing, and then this goes right here. So really nice spread here for lots and lots of photographs. We have this middle flap here. That is going to be this paper here, and it measures 3 3/4 by 8 1/4. And peel off the backing of the score tape, and let's get lots of glue on the back of this. And that's just going to go right directly on like so. Okay, there we go. Now we just have our base page left to do. The base that goes behind the pocket, of course, measures 6 1/4 by 7. Okay, so I went ahead and took the backing off of that score tape. Okay, let's go ahead and pull this out. And pardon my head. Okay, there we go. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and fix the pocket now because some of these little, so this is kind of like exhibit A of why, you know, I glue these little pockets down. They just bend as you flip through the book and as the book gets used. So if you glue them down with strong glue, like art glitter glue, you're not gonna mess up, you know, your pocket. You'll still be able to slide things very easily in and out of your pocket. And it'll just keep the delicate ends from the punch that the punch left behind. It'll keep them from bending or even breaking on you. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the same thing on this side. Okay, push down, just get that to stick. Okay, now I can take this off the pocket, and I have this little strip that's going to go right here on top of the pocket. It measures 6 1/4 by 2. There we go. Okay, so this is page 7, what it looks like in closed position. We have this little flap here. This opens, flap here, flap here, flap here. Nice spread for photos, and then your center spread, of course, for your pocket, with your pocket and your base page here. Okay, so in closed position, that is what it looks like. Finally, we are on to, oh, I didn't fix this top pocket. Sorry about that, guys. Let's fix this top pocket on this flap real quick. Same way we've been doing. No big deal, I just forgot to do it for some reason. Okay, left side. If I can get my fingernail down in there. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and same thing, a little bit of glue. And just hold your finger there for a minute until it sticks all the way down. Okay, now we're on page 8, which is another one of those side pocket pages like we had before. On page 2, very similar. All right, so page 8, we're gonna have our right flap, kind of the lid to our side envelope, and this is gonna measure 3 1/4 by 8 1/4. So let's go ahead and glue that down. Burnish it, open it up. Same size on the back. So again, it's 3 1/4 by 8 1/4, same size as the front. Don't forget, if you're rounding the edges, to round the correct edges because they're opposite sides, obviously. Okay, let's go ahead and stick that down. Giving ourselves a nice little border there. Burnish it. Okay, now we have our left flap size here, which is 5 1/4 by 8 1/4. So let's go ahead and take our little backings to our score tape off of our magnets. We'll go ahead and get this glued down for this left flap. Alrighty, so that goes just centered. Pardon my head if it's in the frame. That just gets centered down right there. Didn't get all the way out to the corner, so I'm just fixing that there. There we go. Okay, so we open this, and then we have 2 little side flaps inside of this left flap. This one is for a 4x6 photo. So I didn't have any 4x6 cut aparts, so I just went ahead and made my own out of a neat little piece of that paper that had the newsprint on it. I just love, that was my favorite paper from the collection. So I just made my own little cover to this flap. Of course, you could just do 2 photos, one on the front of the flap and one on the back of the flap if you like. I really like to decorate the fronts of my flaps and then just leave the backs for photos. This flap here, I used this beautiful flower that I cut out of the one of the cut aparts pages. It's actually two flowers. This measures 4 1/2 by 3. So I just used it to decorate this top flap here, like so. And then on the rest of this flap, you could do more paper stripping if you like, but I had enough paper to do this, so I'm just going to go ahead and put a full sheet down, and that's going to measure 5 1/4 by 8 1/4. Okay, just trying to get some of this dried glue off my fingers. I'm so sorry. All right, so let's go ahead and glue this down. All right, so this goes right on this flap like so. Okay, so then that's what this one looks like. I like it better this way. Okay, like that. And then we have to do the inside, the base page. So we have the base, which again, like all of the others, all of the others measures 6 1/4 by 7. So let's go ahead and get that one glued down. Okay, pull that pocket up, and then go ahead and glue it down. Okay, go ahead and fix my pocket down because some of these little guys are bending on me, and I just want to get them glued down. Okay, so just push that down real quick. Okay, same on the other side now. Glue. There we go. Just didn't want to stay over here on the right. There we go. Just hold it down for a sec. Okay. And finally, we just have our little strip for our pocket, which measures 6 1/4 by 2. So we'll go ahead and stick that right there. And there you have it. There is page number 8. So here it is in closed position. You go ahead and open it up. We have this, my idea was to leave this alone. I just think that's beautiful paper. And then we have this flap here and a flap here, tons of room for photos, and then the middle pocket spread as well. Finally, the inside back cover. Very simple. We just have the back of the page and the pocket. So the back of the page is 6.5 by 7.5. So let's go ahead and get that glued down. There we go. And then let's fix our pocket like we've been doing. Same thing on the left side now. Whoops, didn't get all that score tape backing off. Let's see. There we go. And then just a little bit of glue on that top of that punch part. And then our design paper for our pocket measures 6.5 by 2. We'll just layer that right on top of our pocket. Like so. Okay, and that is it, guys. I know I went through this really fast. All of the measurements will be in the description box of this video below, but just to kind of take you through it again. So here's your front inside cover with this flap for photos. We have page 1 with just the 2 little flaps. We have page 2 with the side envelope. Okay, we have page 3 with these little flaps here and pocket, and then this one opens. These little guys open like so, and then this opens. I know it looks unfinished, but remember we did these strips because we were going to run out of paper if we didn't. So just remember that if it looks unfinished, you can always put a piece of cardstock down here, you know, like I did when I did it with the black cardstock in my original. Here is page number 4 with the flap, and then this flap, pocket, flap, pocket. Okay. Page 5, very simple, just 2 flaps and a pocket. Page 6, flap, flap, big photo, and then these little flaps right here. And then page 7 with this flap, 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 like that. Okay. And then page 8. And then our inside back cover. Okay, so that is it. This is the original one that I did. A little bit of the papers are different. I just changed it. I mean, I didn't really change it up that much. Most of it's exactly the same, but a little bit of it's just a little tiny bit different. But you know, it's the same exact measurements and same ideas. And this is what it looks like with the black cardstock. So you can choose, you know, when you're doing the tutorial, if you want to use the cream or the black. If you use the black, it is a little bit easier to see where you would put photos because you can put cream there in place of the photos. For, you know, for example, if you were giving this as a gift or something, I have cream under all of the flaps and where all the paper strips are. There's let's find here, like here, for example. So these flip out, and then here's where we did those paper strips in our cream book. It's just blank there, but in our black book, we have actual cream cardstock there. So it just gives it kind of a finished, more finished look if you were giving it as a gift. But if you were going to keep this for yourself, you would know what to put there, so it really wouldn't matter. The final thing that you would want to do, of course, after you've decorated, and that's where all the fun stickers and chipboard from the collection come in. So that's all subjective to taste. That's all however you want to do it. But these come in the DCE, so you can have a ball with all of those wonderful accessories that come with it. The last thing that you'd want to do, of course, after you've decorated your album and done your covers, is you want to put your little pockets in, or your little photo mats rather, inside of the side pockets. They would measure, the pages are 7 by 9, so they would measure 6 3/4 by 8 3/4. And as you can see in the finished book here, I did more paper stripping on those. So like those are 2 4x4 photos, that's a 4x6. So I didn't have enough paper to do all of them in, cover them all completely in paper rather. That one I did cover one side, 2 4x6s on the other. So you get the idea. So you would have 4 of those for each of the side pockets. And that would conclude your book. So really easy, I think. Hopefully you guys enjoy the tutorials for this book, and then this tutorial for the decorations helped show how to customize this book to this beautiful paper collection. All right, guys, thank you so much as always for stopping by and for watching. Make sure to stop by scrapandcreate.com and pick up the DCE of the Ladies Diary and any other supplies you might need. Have a great day, and thanks so much. Bye-bye.